Hello, everybody. I'm Delusion Dispeller. And it's been a while since I've actually reported on the 12 Tribes group, which I believe is a cult. I have no doubts that it's a cult. Um, and there's a lot of disturbing things that they believe and a lot of anti biblical things that they believe. They claim to be Messianic Jews, they claim to be Christians, and yet they refute the Bible at every turn when anybody challenges them. Um, I believe it's a cult, but you can form your own opinion. I just wanted to share this documentary with you and make a commentary in between so I can give my views and my opinions as I've always done on this dangerous cult group. Most disturbing is the treatment of children, babies at very young ages, and beating them with rods, balloon sticks, the things that you get your helium balloons on, those white sticks. My cats are about to fight, so I need to curb that quickly. All right, anyways. So, um, I just wanted to share this documentary. It's from a show called The Current Affair. And you can form and base your own opinions on this commentary and feel free to give them in the comment section. Here we go.
Well, you probably remember our investigation into the religious cult 12 Tribes. Former members say it heavily disciplines children, lacks medical care, and tears families apart. Well, after our report, a former elder of 12 Tribes came forward, and tonight he goes on the record about its teachings for the very first time.
Hello.
Hi, Han. It was an invitation we simply couldn't refuse. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for making the journey.
A one-on-one with one of the two men responsible for setting up the 12 Tribes here in Australia.
We're complicit. Everybody there is there because they want to be there. So who's being controlled?
The cult's accused of beating their children and restricting access to proper medical care.
It's a whack, whack, whack. It's just enough to get their attention, really.
When was the last time that it rained?
Oh, I don't know. I can't even remember. We've had spits and promises.
Hans Ganecki, formerly Scott Ganecki, has never spoken publicly about the 3 decades he spent as a leader of the 12 Tribes. Until now. He's invited us into his new home and new life in northern New South Wales.
Want to come on in?
Sure.
Okay, I just want to say something. Did you hear him say it's just a whack, whack, whack? Just enough to get their attention. He's talking about like 6-month-old babies, whacking them on the leg to get them to hold still while their diaper's being changed. You'll hear more about this as it goes on. I know. Horrifying and shocking, in my opinion.
This is Master Interview 1.
People say I was brainwashed, say, for example, this might be suggested, and I get that. I understand the process, I think, a little bit, but in my case, I would say not. I needed an identity. I didn't know who I was. I was 23, and I was desperately wondering who the heck am I? And I found it in a big way, like really big way.
The cult is based on the First Testament. The 12 Tribes live in communities, handing over all their possessions and all their money when they join.
God-given right.
They recruit members through their yellow deli cafes around the world. But it's their treatment of children that has sparked international headlines. How old are you?
Here is something that I find interesting. First of all, it's interesting that this guy is even willing to speak out, but you'll find out later that he actually left the group. So, yeah, he's willing to tell the truth a little bit now, but you can still kind of sense that there's something there still in his belief distortions that came with him when he left. So he's still kind of defending some of the stuff in the group. And I guess, if you've been there for years and years, and yeah, you've been brain soiled, as I call it, not brainwashed, you're going to have some distorted ideas about things. You're going to try to justify things. Stockholm Syndrome, I believe, what a lot of these people that were in this cult end up coming out with. But you're about to hear a little bit more about the child abuse going on there, or we'll say alleged child abuse. But honestly, in Germany, they found evidence of kids being beaten all day long taken into a room and beaten with these balloon sticks, and to the point where they were made to cry. And if they didn't cry, they kept beating them till they did. Sorry.
This hidden camera investigation aired on US television in 2018, filming young children of the 12 tribes being forced to work on their farms and on factory assembly lines.
Factories? We don't have factories.
We have videotape of it, sir. In 2013, a police raid removed 40 children from a 12 tribes compound in Germany after undercover footage captured repeated physical punishment of a number of children. A Current Affair has heard numerous accounts of Australian children at the hands of the tribes being beaten with rods from a very young age at their communes in Picton and in the Blue Mountains outside of Sydney. As ex-member Matthew Klein told us in October.
Young babies wriggling while you're changing their nappies, you need to spank them to keep them still so they learn to respond.
As a shepherd.
Alarmingly, Skenecki doesn't deny children have been subjected to this type of treatment here in Australia. How did you feel about the attitudes within the 12 tribes of the severe disciplining of children?
How did I feel about it? I thought it was great.
So
At the time, I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was...
Why?
You can come up with an argument that says, hey, children need boundaries. They're insecure without them. And
I don't disagree with that, but I've got a 16-month-old, and I think if I were to whack her with a rod, I can tell you that she doesn't understand what I'm doing or why.
No, it's more like dog training. It's you're reducing them down to a more of a primal level. You're not reasoning. Before I had children, this was fine. I loved it.
Okay, hold on, y'all. I need to turn my heat off so you can hear the actual commentary. I'll be right back. All right. Okay, I don't know if you heard that, but he said it's like dog training. You're reducing them down to a primal level. He's talking about babies, like 6-month-old babies. You're reducing them down to a primal level, like dog training. So it's okay to beat your baby because you're just treating them like a dog, which you shouldn't be beating dogs either, by the way, idiot. Sorry, my opinions.
Life takes on a different flavor.
Hold on. I need to turn this up. Now you can't hear it at all.
Bed there.
He said when you have your own children, life takes on a different form. You have your child or your baby down on the bed there. That's where he left off.
Sounds different all of a sudden. And
it was different for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything changes when you have children.
Han's wife decided to leave the 12 tribes in 2009 with their kids. Their intense disciplining had become too much for her, and Han decided he too would leave with them. He'd started to question the behaviours of the group, not only with children, but also their attitudes towards medical care. Seeking outside medical help within the tribes was frowned upon. Even in serious situations, members were discouraged from going to hospital. You were an elder, so...
Okay, hold on. Because before we go on from the children discipline, as they call it, aka abuse, as I call it, and many others do, especially ex-tribe members, it's unbelievable that they can do this to children and get away with it because it's religious. Since when did religion give you a right to be abusive? I don't know. I don't understand that. But it's allowed to go on. And these cults are springing up everywhere. They're not just in Australia. They're everywhere. They're not just in Germany either. They're in the United States. They're actually right where I used to live in like Hamburg, New York area.
When people were ill, what was your role?
As an elder and a shepherd, you would go and you would find out if there was anything in them that they needed to get out.
Like what?
And you could call that confessing your sins. You'd been watching pornography. You had, I don't know, you'd been mean to your wife, or you'd been insubordinate to your husband. You'd hit your children too hard.
And that would be causing the illness?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But if someone's seriously ill?
Then we would pray for them. We didn't say you couldn't go to the hospital, but it had to get to a point of urgency where there's some danger. I know of a girl who almost died. And by the time they got her there and they got her a blood transfusion, she was nearly gone.
So does an elder get to make that call?
Elders, you're going to, when it gets sort of critical, like in a birth, we would always have a gopher guy with a vehicle that was fully petroled up and the keys in his hand, and he knew where the hospital was. That reluctance is dangerous. It takes you too close to the line. But that's how we did it. We were all in. We actually were believing that he was going to come through.
By he.
Okay, we're going to talk about who he is in a minute. So, if a lady got pregnant, now I've heard this from actual ex-tribe members. A lot of times they just did home births. They did not bring them to the hospital. It had to be like they were almost dying before they would take them to the hospital. And having had 4 children and gone through childbirth and having really bad complications with one of my births, I can tell you, I probably would be dead if I was in this crazy cult, because they would tell you, oh, well, you need to repent of your sin. Did you get in a fight with your husband last night? That's why you're having all this pain. That's why your birth is not going well. You need to repent right now, and then everything will be okay. That's ridiculous. That's cult thinking. A lot of people, there actually were a couple deaths, at least one that I know of a little child that was beaten and starved, I believe. I don't remember if it's this cult, but a similar cult to it if it wasn't this one. But it happens all the time.
Han means God.
And when he didn't come through, then generally it's your fault.
Although Han left the 12 tribes a decade ago, it wasn't a clean break. He stayed in contact with them over the years, the group even welcoming him back for a visit to their main commune, Peppercorn Creek Farm, just a few months ago, where he returned with some of their medical guides instructing members to take herbs to treat serious illness. Last time I checked, I don't know, the blended garlic was going to cure.
Yeah, well, this was
when you're in a child.
This was our first port of call, and you didn't. Your first idea was not a doctor and not a hospital.
I mean, here there's guidelines on how to treat preeclampsia, and it talks about taking certain herbs to look after a woman's liver. As someone who's had preeclampsia, it's life-threatening.
Yeah.
A few herbs isn't going to fix a life-threatening condition.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
I would agree.
There's no probably not about it. It won't. Preeclampsia. Come on. Ladies, you've had babies, some of you. Preeclampsia, that's very dangerous. You can die from that. That's, oh my gosh. It's absolutely awful. And they're trying to fix it with herbs. Oh, just here, take a blend of garlic and some spices. You'll be okay. Oh my gosh. Just absolutely terrifying what this cult is doing and getting away with, like I said.
Bless us with a live baby because of our sin.
In our original investigation, former member Rosemary Cruzado told of the devastating loss of her baby. We asked Han what he knew of her story.
There were babies that were stillborn. There were babies that struggled to live. Definitely, the whole gamut. Those things did happen. And some of those things probably would have been preventable. But
Han and his wife had a similar close call with his third child, born in the tribes. Unlike Rose, he actually got the option to see a doctor, but still ignored their advice for an emergency C-section.
I came back and I said, Doctor, the child that's in my wife's womb was put there by our Creator, and He chose to put that life there. And if it's going to be born alive, it'll be because He makes it born alive.
God.
And He's going to bring it to birth.
How do you feel about their attitude now, with the perspective that you have now?
Well, I guess that's why I'm talking to you.
So far, no one has ever been held accountable for the loss of life in the 12 tribes. Nor has there been an investigation into the financial operations of their businesses here in Australia. No one earns a wage from working in the cafe. Would I be correct in saying that?
Correct, absolutely correct. There's no wages going on. It's all, I mean, WorkCover had a devil of a time trying to work with us because we're all bosses. There are no employees because there are no wages. Things like that, like the ATO, applying for tax exempt status. I did it in New Zealand, I did it here. The advancement of religion is one of the four heads of charity. So, on that argument,
no tax.
Okay, so they don't pay taxes. They're not held accountable. Yes, investigations have been done, but because it's a religious organization, they can plead their religious rights And yeah, people will say, well, that's good because if they start taking away their rights, and they're going to take away our rights to do this and that and whatever. But there are babies being killed and tortured and children being tortured and beaten in this cult. You can color it and say discipline all you want. Hitting a 6-month-old with a balloon rod repeatedly till it lays still to have its nappy, as they call it, diaper change is abuse. There's nothing short of abuse in that.
No tax.
Han is in a very different place now, living in northern New South Wales. The distance in time and space that's now between he and the 12 tribes has given him pause to reflect.
Thank God.
So you would call the 12 tribes a cult?
I think you could use that word. I don't normally. I don't use that word.
Proper
Sect
answer is
probably
yes,
better,
it's
a
a
little bit
cult.
less emotional, but definitely high controlling. Yeah, all that. If you're not in, you're out. If you're not with me, you're against me. If you want to have a strong identity, create a strong enemy, and then you really know who you are.
Look at that. If you want to have a strong identity, create a strong enemy, and you'll know who you are. Think about that. Think about YouTube. You want to have a strong identity, create a strong enemy. See other people as the enemy, and then it'll make you feel better about yourself, basically. Yeah, I try my best to avoid doing that, but honestly, it's hard sometimes. It's hard. People act the fool, and you just want to distance yourself. But this is a new year and a new time for me, and I'm trying to form new ways. And though I might distance myself at times, I don't want to ever see people as my enemy unless they're like dangerous or something like that, or just absolutely cruel and slanderous, or come into my room and start bullying people. Then they're the enemy. Obviously, they make themselves that. But somebody that just has a different view than me, um, as long as they're not trying to cram it down my throat or other people's throat, as long as it's not demonic or witchcrafty, I don't have a problem listening to them, like the flat earth theory. I don't know what I believe about that, but I wouldn't call them my enemy. I'd call them people with a different point of view. That's what I mean by that. Um, there's just so many different people on YouTube. You're going to find people you disagree with, but that doesn't make them the enemy. And as soon as you start making everybody the enemy, you have no friends. And then you are isolated. And that's the tool of the devil, as far as I'm concerned, is to isolate you from other people and to get you to the point where you're like distrustful of everybody. Because there are some good people out there. I've met many good people, um, not just online, but everywhere. And you can't just see everybody as against you just because they don't agree with every single thing you believe, because no two people are ever going to do that. But this is what one tactic the cult uses: is if you're not with us, you're against us. If you're not agreeing and believing exactly the way we tell you to and the way we do, then you are seen as the enemy, and then you are slated for shunning, punishment, whatever they do.
Wow, a disturbing insight there. If you want to share your experience with the 12 tribes, please get in.
Okay, so get in touch with them. All right, so that was the commentary. It's about, I don't know, 9 minutes long. I'll try to post that link down below for you. I belong to a group that's trying to help 12 tribes members. I'm going to take a portion of whatever I make from this video, and I'm going to donate it to the groups that are helping people escape this cult and get established in their own lives. So people have said, like last year, right as the year was ending, Dee Dee, we've never heard about you giving back to anybody. You just take, take, take. Why don't you give to some organization? Here you go. I'm giving to an organization. I'm not giving all the money I make because I do have bills to pay and I have a life to live, but I will give a certain percentage to the helpers of people that are trying to get people out of this cult and rescue these poor babies that have no voice other than to scream and comply with the vicious assaults on their bodies because they're not laying still for a diaper change. Ugh. I've heard so many stories about people who raised their children in these cults and have such regrets, and how strained those relationships are as those children grow because they resent that parent. Once they leave the 12 tribes, it's very hard for that child to trust that parent again. They flinch if that parent comes near them. Um, they don't know what to expect. They can't believe that they're not still being beaten and hit and threatened. It's very psychologically damaging, it's physically damaging, it's physiologically damaging, and it's a message that needed to be told, so I told it in my own way. Please leave your comments below if you like this video, like and subscribe to my channel, and please share this message because we need to rescue people that fall into these very harmful organizations called cults. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. God bless.